Hello everyone, this is going to be my review of long-term use of the Benchmade 580 Barrage. This is a popular EDC knife in my rotation. Let you get a good look at this. This is an access lock knife. You see the milling out in the liners there. I'll go into some more detail about this in a second, but let's just take a look at the knife first. Okay, so I'm just going to start with some specifications here, just so everybody knows, get this stuff out of the way. So first of all, as you guys can tell, this is an access lock knife, just like many of Benchmade's designs. This is about the medium-sized access lock. I know they make a couple different sizes. I've seen some smaller ones, and there's a couple bigger ones on some of the bigger models, like the 810 Contigo. That's another one that has a bit of a larger access lock, but this is about in the middle, and this is, in my opinion, very suitable for an everyday carry knife, and possibly a tactical knife if you wanted to put it in that role. So let's get into a little bit of the specs here. So again, this is the 580 model. This is an Osborne design, this particular knife, as with a handful of other knives, such as the popular Benchmade 940. This is an Osborne design as well, as you'll see it states on the back there. Osborne design. Just like this one does. Let's see if we can pick this up here. There you go. Okay. Now, this particular knife is 154 cm steel. This is what Benchmade uses on a lot of their knives. Used to be a lot more. Now they're getting into some more exotic steels. You're seeing some M390 now. Some what else are they using? They're using some CPM M4. It's another good steel. It's a tool steel. It doesn't have necessarily the corrosion resistance as 154 cm, but it is a very hard steel, and that will keep an edge for quite a long time. Next to this, one feature I'll mention is this does actually have a safety on the back right here. So this, you push forward. Now it's locked. You cannot depress the access lock here. And then when you pull this backwards here, so if you can see forward, backwards, now you can actually pull back the access lock and use it there. And not all folders have a safety, but this one has a safety because it is an assisted opener. So let me show you that really quick. So you may be able to tell with the speed. It requires little to no effort, just a small push on the thumb stud. This blade flies out of there with a lot of authority. Quite nice. It's definitely an eye catcher when you take this knife out to use it. It's not the quietest blade when it opens, unless you were to open it two-handed, but it's got a nice smack to it. It comes out. You can see the way it rocks in my hand with the extra momentum it has. If you look closely here, it really wants to jerk back as it opens up there and locks into place. So the reason this has the safety is when the knife is closed, you can engage the safety, and by pushing the safety up, what it does is it pushes this bar here. You can see right here, it pushes the bar underneath the access lock. So now the access lock cannot actually go down. And if you look, again, right in this hole here, when you push down the safety, it removes the bar. And then the access lock is free to move up and down, and then you can deploy the blade. You can deploy it that way. Another way you can deploy this blade, well, it can be shaken out. See if I can do that on camera here, if I zoom out. Okay, so you just give it some effort, and the blade pops out. Do that once more. Okay. And that's without me touching the access lock. Now, another alternative to deploying this blade is you can actually depress the access lock and give it just a slight little touch, and the blade swings out of there pretty quickly. So, again, 154 cm blade. Now, Benchmade claims that this particular knife is hardened to 58 to 61 Rockwell hardness, which is about in line with your VG10 steel, VG10 and 154 cm. If you're familiar with a lot of the Spyderco knives that use VG10 and you're not familiar with 154 cm, very comparable. 154 cm takes a really nice edge. It's super easy to sharpen, and it keeps an edge for a decent amount of time. I would say maybe 154 cm and VG10 are probably amongst the lower end of the steels that I would prefer to carry. So, I mean, great steel. It's not going to keep an edge forever, but it takes an edge really nicely, and it is really easy to sharpen. This came with what looked like about a 600 grit edge on here from the factory from Benchmade. It was a little bit toothy, although it did keep that edge for a long time. What I did since then is I put a convex edge on this knife, starting from around, I think, 21 degrees, or starting from 18, and I took it all the way down to 21 or 22, so it's got a nice curve on the edge of this blade, and this is probably not something you'd be able to see in the video, but it's not necessarily as straight of an edge as, for example, on my Endura. So if you look at the Endura, if I can make this focus, so I don't know if you can see, but the edge of the Endura is very mirrored. It's mirrored in one direction. It gives you one clean reflection, whereas you're not going to get that same reflection. This is not a bad angle to see that reflection. You see the camera and the reflection of the edge there. On the 580 Barrage, you're not going to get that same effect because it is a convex edge now. So the edge is rounded, sort of like how you would sharpen most axes and maybe big chopping knives. And that convex edges put a lot more steel behind the edge, and more steel behind the edge allows it to keep an edge a little bit longer. It's not going to be as razor sharp and as hair whittling as the just straight grind from the tip here right to the edge, because this has a lot less steel behind it. It's a lot less resistance when you're cutting. But the convex edge I like for everyday carry use. It's very nice, and I polished this up to 3.5 microns on the wicked edge. So this has quite a nice edge on there. Actually, this is a good time. I'll just do a little bit of paper cutting tests, just so I can prove to all you guys that this knife is as sharp as I say it is. So this is cutting some really small little pigtails here in this paper. But anyway, again, like I've said in other videos, printer paper is not the most difficult paper to cut. But I'll get this close here. Now this is usually what I like to see when cutting paper. I want to be able to do that and make these fine little ringlets. That's a good indication of sharpness, in my opinion. You can also cut some receipt paper if you have any lying around. Or even some magazine paper is good too. But I mean, very, very sharp knife. Maybe see what happens when I bend it. Not all knives will do this. But okay, you see bent, and it slices that quite easily here. Even being bent like so. So again, like I said, not many knives can do that. See if I can scrape a little bit of paper. And this is actually push cutting. I'm not really doing any draw here. So, I mean, that was nice. You guys can tell it's sharp. And that's my point with that. Now, let's get into a couple more of the specs. So this has full stainless steel liners in this, and stainless steel liners usually make a knife somewhat heavy. In this case, it's not really an issue, because if I can show you nicely here, the liners are completely milled out, both sides, and Benchmade actually did a very aggressive milling job here. Let me take some light on here with my through knife. There you go. So you should be able to see the milling in there. Quite extensively milled on both sides. Actually, you're witnessing a lot of lint in here. This knife gets quite a bit of pocket time. But yeah, there you go. Now, just to give you some couple more specs here. So the blade length of this is 3.6 inches, which is 9.14 centimeters. The blade thickness is 3 millimeters. Now, just to show you the blade thickness, it has sort of like a false wedge on top here. So it cuts back and gets a little bit thinner near the top. I don't mind that. For what I use this knife for, that's not any issue to me. I think that's appropriate. I guess if you wanted to employ this knife in a tactical role, it would make it a better penetrator. Now, keep in mind, though, this knife does not have any jimping on the back of the knife, nor does it on the back of the blade. It has the slightest of thumb ramps here, really not a lot. I do like the ergos of this knife. I mean, these cutouts for your fingers, I'll be honest, your fingers don't necessarily fit in there properly. Those are more so for decoration on both sides of the knife. However, you do have this little bit of just milling out here, and your forefinger does actually rest on there. And that's been the case for the multiple people that have handled this knife in my possession. And so yeah, that may give you a little bit of traction, but realistically, very slick on top here, very slick on the top of the blade. There's no jimping, like I said, so traction plan on this knife could be better. More in the way of specs here. Closed length, this knife is 4.75 inches, and the weight is 4.3 ounces, and 4.3 ounces is pretty good for a folder this size. Personally, I would like to see it a little bit lighter, but it's not the end of the world. I mean, there's other carry options that are more ergonomic and more lighter. For example, this Benchmade 940, it gives you a comparable blade length here, as you can see. Not much difference at all. And this knife, if I'm correct, I believe it weighs in at around 2.4 ounces. I could be wrong, but pretty darn close. All right, and last thing I'll show you here is the clip. Now, this clip is not four-way reversible. It's tip-up carry only, but you can switch from right to left-handed use there. See my pocket clip here, it has a little bit of wear. I personally prefer the split arrow clip versus the other classic Benchmade clip here. Now, I'll be honest, with these Benchmade clips here, I find they bend very easily. I don't know if you can hear that tapping. The tapping is just from this going in and out of my pocket, and now it no longer touches the knife. So if you can see the little gap there, hopefully you can. That annoys me a little bit. I've never had that issue on a knife with a split arrow clip before. This has very good retention. This is almost more of like a stone-washed matte finish on this versus the glossy finish of the other style Benchmade clip. You can see the other style Benchmade clip, I have a lot of wear on this, a lot of scratches. I also have a lot of wear on the split arrow clip. However, it seems to show the wear a little bit better. It's holding up, in my opinion, a little bit better than the other style clip. Yeah, so that's my review of the Benchmade 580 Barrage. I've carried this knife for about 2 years, and it still frequently finds itself in my pocket amongst some of my other knives. I like the quick deployment of it, not necessarily for a tactical purpose, but more for a novelty purpose. Sometimes, depending on whose house I'm at, whether I'm at family or maybe the girlfriend's house, if I'm sitting down on the couch with some other people, I'll take the knife out of my pocket and I'll put it on the table just because I don't want to maybe scratch up the leather couch or something like that. It's, in my opinion, convenient to have this little lock on the back. I don't use it when the knife just sits in my pocket, but when I take it out and I put it down on a surface that someone may walk by and pick up and try and open, I don't want anyone else to fiddle with my knife, whether it's some little kids or just someone else who's playing with my knife that may injure themselves. Most people wouldn't know that this knife has the little lock on the back there that will prevent you from opening the knife. So again, when you put it back in your pocket, you can just unlock it so it's ready to be opened and deployed there. And that's it. So one more thing I'll mention, and just in regards to the lockup, the access lock is a very solid lockup. This knife has the slightest bit of play. Now, in terms of up and down play, I don't notice any rattling. It seems very solid. But when you go to the side, just ever so slightly a little bit of play. It's not much. It's not enough to bother me, and it's certainly not enough to, in my opinion, cause me any danger with any tasks I'm committing with this knife. It's not going to make me worry when I'm using it. So yeah, this is a great knife. Just to show you really quick, a competitive option to this, I usually use interchangeably my Spyderco Endura 4 in full flat grind. These are very comparable knives. One thing you'll notice actually about the Benchmade Barrage, it is quite a thick knife. And I'll show you like this here. The handles are quite beefy, and I will say that is both a positive and a negative. When I used my Endure 4 quite hard, I used it in the woods, I used it for, I know you guys are going to laugh, but a little bit of chopping. There was some hot spots on my hands with this knife, and I think a lot of it had to do with both the clip and the thinness of the handle. Now, this 580 Barrage, I've done some aggressive wood cutting, kind of similar work to making feather sticks, that kind of thing, but really reprofiling a piece of wood for furniture, just something I was helping someone with. And I was holding the knife like this. I was doing some aggressive scraping towards me, cutting off large pieces of wood, and also forward, very aggressive cutting that way. This knife was extremely comfortable the entire time. I would expect maybe a clip like this that's a little more pronounced and a little, I guess you can say, sharper on the edge to cause me some discomfort, but it did not. This was a very comfortable knife to use. No blade play after maybe, like I said, a year and a half, 2 years of carrying this. Great knife. 154 cm steel is definitely respectable. It's got a good corrosion resistance, and it keeps an edge for a fair amount of time. So thank you guys for watching my review on the Benchmade 580 Barrage. Please subscribe for more similar videos, knife reviews, gear reviews in the future. And if I get any more hard use on this, I'll make sure to film it and upload it so you guys can take a look at it. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you guys later.